Dragon's Champion, Chapter 1. I couldn't take the heat anymore. The covers over top of me were too much. I sat up with a start and threw them to the floor. Catching my breath, the room was also stuffy and hard to breathe in. This feeling left me like I'd woken up from a nightmare. I wouldn't be able to fall back to sleep as it didn't look like it would come or that my body would let me. In the dark, I remained sitting on my sweat-soaked bed. Fresh air was the thing that I needed most right now, but I didn't want to move. I forced myself onto my feet, over to the window, and pushed the blackout curtains aside. I should have opened my windows before I went to bed. I flung the windows wide open and closed my eyes. The cool breeze washed over me. It felt good after another sleepless night. At least the fresh air will help clean out the apartment for me while I'm gone. I also couldn't stand the stickiness of sweat that was on my skin. It was gross. A shower was what I needed before I left home. I grabbed my rotund phone from the side table to check the time. It was currently 3 a.m. I went to the closet and took a towel from it and made my way to the restroom. However, moments later, the thought hit me. There was an important event that's called PokeFest that I attended every year. It was one of Galar's biggest events that I looked forward to. My eyes shot open as I realized what I'd forgotten about going to PokeFest. It was the battle I'd waited so long for against Leon, and it was to happen today. The battle between us was going to be legendary, and it will be one to remember. This was an important event that nobody in Galar wanted to miss. However, if I wanted to get to Wyndon in time for the battle, I needed to stop standing around and start getting ready for the day. The event wouldn't start for a few hours, but I couldn't stop myself from thinking about it. Our last battle I had with Leon, I lost to him. I took the first chance at a rematch when it came to the surface. I made my way into the restroom. I stripped out of my soaked clothing and threw them into the laundry basket. I knew that they needed to be washed as it had overflowed a few days ago. There wasn't always time for me to do the laundry as the washers and dryers were located in the basement of the gym. My schedule was always busy, let alone the fact I avoided the basement when I could. At least it wasn't located under the stadium where Pokemon battles were held. This is the Dragon-type gym that I'd been running as the leader for years in Hammerlock. I lived here since I was a child. I stood in front of the glass pane shower as I turned on the faucet to the coldest setting. The water rained down from the spout. The water rained down and crashed into the drain below. The water rained down and crashed into the drain below. The water rained down and crashed into the drain below. It was cold and sent shivers through my body as I stepped into the stream. This wasn't anything new since I normally took cold showers. The water washed over my dark skin. On the shelf next to me, I reached for the bottle of soap, putting some into my hand and started to lather it through my hair. I let it sit in my hair as the thoughts of the last battle I had with Leon came back to mind. It was a timed battle, a rare occurrence in Galar that depended on how long participants lasted or until time ran out was the way the winner was determined. During that battle, the clash of metal and fire between Leon's Charizard and my Duraludon was an epic experience that wasn't to be taken lightly. I almost won the match, but they'd called it off just before I could land my final blow on Charizard. This battle was different for the fact we also didn't use our full teams. It was the same type of battle that we were going to do later today. I balled my fist as the adrenaline of what's to come shot through me. This would be my moment to shine and avenge my losses. I'll show everyone that I'm the boss and that I can hold my own. I have a feeling that I will beat him this time. It was going to be awesome. I cleared my swarming thoughts about the past battle with a deep breath. Besides the thoughts I was having, it was really awkward of me to be thinking about my rival while I was in the shower. After a few minutes, I rinsed off all the soap and stood in the water for a short time. I turned off the water, even though I wanted to stay in it for longer. This was one of my shorter showers, but they always left me satisfied and refreshed. I stepped out into the blue bath mat outside the shower. I grabbed the towel and threw it over my head. Drying my hair as much as I could, I wrapped the towel around my waist and moved in front of the mirror. I grabbed a bottle of gel from the counter and threw some in my hair. Then I took a fine-toothed comb through it. When my hair dried in a few hours and the gel was set, I looked like a porcupine. When my hair dried in a few hours and the gel was set, I looked like a porcupine from the back. This wasn't an issue as it was a part of my style as a gym leader. I also have my large orange headband to keep any loose hair from blocking my eyes. I left the restroom and sat down at my clean desk. I had some time to kill before the event started. I pulled out my Rotom to check what was going on in my social media feed. Something on one of the platforms I'm on had to have a good read. I wanted to know what people were posting and if I could get a scoop of what Leon was up to. I started to scroll through tons of different media. It was an assortment of Pokemon pictures with the trainers, various locations and monuments at Galar as the main things that I'd come across. It was a disappointment as I was hoping for more to read and look at than what I got. I stopped scrolling after my Rotom dinged at me and it showed that it was low on battery. I can't go in today with a dead Rotom. I won't let that happen. On my bedside table, I set my Rotom on its charging station. I needed what power I could get for it while I had the chance. I checked the time again. It was now 9 a.m. Was I really scrolling for that long? The room was brighter now that I thought about it. By the time I started moving again, my Rotom's alarm went off. It was time for me to prepare for the day ahead and for me to get dressed in my uniform. I opened the closet to grab my uniform, but to my surprise, it wasn't there. I froze. I can't show up without it. It's one of the things that I have to show up in. Luckily, my jacket was hung up there, but I needed to search for my uniform now before it was too late. The hunt for my uniform started. As I checked in the places I normally throw it when I took it off. Places such as the railing of the bed frame and inside my dresser. Places such as on the railing of the bed frame and inside of my dresser. I went over and dug through the drawers, shifting everything inside it, having no chance of finding it. I went and dug through the drawers, shifting everything inside, having no chance of finding my uniform. My breath became heavy, and my chest tightened as I threw clothing around the room and moved the sheets and blankets from the floor to the end of the bed. Where did it go? I knew I had it yesterday when I'd taken it off after a long day of working. As I scanned the room once more, I huffed and made my way into the bathroom. I didn't see my laundry basket at first, but I ran my foot into it as it tipped over, spilling dirty clothing everywhere. I stood back and cursed at myself, seeing the mess I'd created. However, I saw in the bottom of the basket was my navy blue shirt and shorts that looked like a soccer uniform with bright orange stripes and a dragon logo on the chest that represented my gym. My shoulders relaxed and I exhaled, grabbing the shirt and held it up. It wasn't that dirty, but it definitely needed a wash. that I forgot to do last night. It wasn't that dirty, but it definitely needed a wash. I threw everything on. All the gym leaders had similar sporty uniforms with colors that showed and represented who ran what gym. I had a few other things to do at home before I was ready. I owned it for years, and it still looked brand new. It resembled a black-scaled dragon with a golden chest. The hood was like an open dragon's mouth with cloth teeth. It was years ago when I picked it up from a clothing designer. Leon was the only person with me at the time. That was the day I won't forget. It was the turning point with our friendship. It was the turning point from our friendship we once had and a long-lasting rivalry between us. Our first battle ended with me losing and him becoming the champion of Galar shortly after. But it didn't stop there. With my defeat, I felt lost and stranded and unable to find my path until he showed up one day with an offer I couldn't resist. That would be to take my gym leader position. At that point, I defended the job as there was a high demand for it, as things became official from there, that I'd never get rid of. It was my responsibility that I'd never get rid of. The memory of my first days faded of being a gym leader. I avoided the strings that were attached to it. The confidence this jacket provided me was what I needed to get myself moving. Once it was on, I turned to a head mannequin I had turned to a head mannequin in the corner of the room where my headband was. I pulled it off and tied it to my head. I adjusted it over my forehead, as it was large enough that you couldn't see most of my head. That was except for the back, where my hair was longer. I checked to see if there was anything left for me to do to get ready. From what I saw, there was nothing left. I gave myself a toothy grin in the mirror. Today was going to be a good day. Now was presentable to those that were within the walls of Wyndham Stadium. There was one more thing I needed before I left. I needed to bring Duraludon with me. It would only be him, and I'd leave the rest of my Pokemon at home. Beside the head mannequin, in a display, 6 gray, white, and yellow Ultra Balls sat. I grabbed the one that was closest to me and slipped it into my jacket pocket. I walked past the kitchen and grabbed a protein bar to eat my way to Wyndham. I didn't have time to make myself breakfast. After that, I collected my shoes that were similar make to the style of my jacket. I sat on the end of my bed and slipped them on. I took a last look around my place. It was messy from my uniform search, but I didn't care. I headed to the door. Months back, in preparation for this moment, I had taped a blue and red colored flyer to the inside of my front door. For our Pokemon were on the flyer and posed ready for battle next to us. Grin crossed my face as I pointed the picture of Leon. This was my year to win and show everyone what I was made of. I chuckled and spoke to myself, Leon, your reign ends today.